Hello and welcome. The big budget analysis here on NDTV. We're joined by Chandrajit Banerjee. He's a Director General at CII. Vineet Mittal, Chairman of ADA Group. Vivek Bhatia, MD of TKIL. And of course, R. Mukundan, Vice President at CII. Thank you all very much for your time. The big hits and the big miss, really, this budget. We, of course, heard the Finance Minister talk about startups, entrepreneurs, given to the big ask of the tax relief as well. So a lot of key announcements that we've heard. But what's the big hit and the big miss, Chandrajit Banerjee? What would you say?
No, I think one of the things that we talked just before the budget was how do we look at the consumption side of it. And I think that's a big thing that was expected and that was more than fulfilled in terms of boosting consumption demand. And that is the trigger of the economy. Another thing that we spoke about was how do we continue with the growth momentum, which is extremely critical and important. And we have seen, and the economic survey also talked about growth through reforms. So we have seen that in some of the important areas which it has touched upon in terms of taxation, so to say, urban infrastructure and urban development. So those are very, very important areas that one has seen. The third bit hit, if one can say, is of course, the growth part of it, which gets covered because it will be done through the, reforms I talked about and the consumption, which will itself boost the economy very strongly. But the third area is the inclusive part, which I see when one goes into the agri side of the agriculture was where the finance minister started her for the budget with. So I think that itself is a very important, and we see a huge push on the supply side, which addresses the issues of inflation, food inflation. So I think that's a big, big thing that has been done on the budget side. Well, big miss, if I think at this point in time, I would have thought there would be something more on divestment. And probably we could have seen a little bit, but that is always a next time for that.
There's always the next time for that. R. Mukundan, then your big hit and big miss from this budget. Like he said, we were talking about more consumption, more purchasing power, more disposable income in the hands of people. So that really is the big hit according to you as well?
See, when we spoke in the morning, I said there are two things the government needs to address. One is the issue of consumption because that's 60% of the economy. And I think the fundamental thing they've done is put more money in the hands of the people. The second thing they need to address is the whole ecosystem of jobs, skills, and MSME. If you look at the way they've gone about it, Chandrajit spoke about agriculture. Agriculture employs 40% of India. They've addressed that. They've addressed MSME, which is the biggest employer. Then they've addressed exports, which again is a big employment generator of high-paying jobs. When you look at electronic sector, which are all higher-paying jobs, that's where the jobs are getting created. So I think this is a jobs and consumption-led investment growth budget. It is very well balanced. And as we would have said, that there can be many issues which you can point fingers, little things here and there. But if you were to say, listen, where would you have put more effort than what we have done? I think what Chandrajit said is very clear, that our effort to make our PSUs more efficient, maybe if they had more market-facing processes by which they had to face the common market, I think that it would have made big difference. Leaving that aside, it's a very well-balanced budget, addressing issues of all sectors of economy, but with a very distinct focus on skilling and jobs on one hand, through all the sectoral issues they've highlighted, and also putting money in the hands of the people, which was a big ask which you were saying. So I think it is, in fact, in many ways, I would say slightly more than what we would even anticipated at the beginning of the day.
Right. Putting money in the hands of people more than what we were anticipating. Vineet Mittal, would you agree?
Yes, I completely agree. It's tough to come out with new point if you are speaking after CB. And if you look at from the energy sector perspective also, one of the biggest challenge was that a lot of the ecosystem in supply chain needs to be built locally in India. And Finance Minister clearly articulated around incentives for manufacturing large battery storage, battery manufacturing, wind, solar cell, which is still gets imported. So you look at the whole manufacturing cluster approach, which she pointed out, will create millions of jobs, and more than that, actually, it will make our supply chain more resilient. We would keep going backward and backward till we start making the entire value chain which we are consuming in energy transition locally. And if you look at energy transition even in China, it's actually giving them 40% growth and almost 16% of their economy. And the other thing which I liked was the focus that there is a competition being created in the urban life improvement by allocating 1 lakh crore for city reforms and improving the ease of living in the city. 1.5 lakh crore to the states for 50 years for infrastructure development. And in addition to that, NAFID being empowered to start credit enhancement, which has been one of the asks for infra committee that many companies, when you have 1 year, 2 year operating history of project, you can issue AA bond, but that's very expensive. So now creating the space through credit enhancements for AAA bond and actually infra companies or clean energy company or power sector now can raise money directly from the market using the bond. So like widening the bond market through that initiative. So all of those are like quite
those are the positives.
Positive. And
right. Now what's the miss?
Miss is like, say for example, the transmission line, though she talked about it, but the devil is in the detail because we need more and more allocation for storage and transmission line. And so once we read it, probably we'll have the details. Maybe it's in the details, but those are the things which
that you need more clarity on.
Yeah.
All right, Vivek, for you, what really was the big hit from this budget and what really was then the big miss?
Well, I would say towards the end, I was saying, wow, and especially what she has done on the personal income tax. I think we were all anticipating that there would be some improvements there, but I think it's great to see the government took a bold step forward. And I think that's fantastic because that puts a lot of money into hands of people. They've talked about supporting agriculture, which ultimately I think should give a good boost to the economic engine and propel growth forward through consumption side. And sectors, especially for us coming from capital goods, infrastructure, I think the cement side should look good as a consequence. And in general, the rural economy I expect will fire up after this budget. And she did all of this while maintaining the path on fiscal consolidation. So, to have it at 4.4% and to continue to improve that is really amazing. And what I loved was if you go through the budget speech, I think she had something for everybody. So it's, I would say, in many ways a feel-good budget. But I would say, it's not easy. To balance and juggle so many balls at the same time. So congratulations to the finance minister and her team for doing a fantastic job.
Right, a budget for everyone. And what really was the area that you sought more clarity on then?
We are a capital goods player. So I think it was a budget where there's a lot in the fine print. So we still need to go through all the details and through all the annexures she mentioned. But I was hoping for more on two sectors. One was on supporting capital goods exports, which we'll have to figure out what's there. It's probably lost in some fine print. And the other part is, on the green side. So green hydrogen, CBG, ethanol, etc. We were hoping for again some bold push in that direction because that would also help us become more Atmanirbhar. So again, I think there are few things here and there, but we have to piece it together and make, the full picture out of it.
Right, we have to piece it together. Chandraseekh Banerjee, I want to talk about gig workers. That's our key mention. Of course, artificial intelligence also saw significant mention. Your thoughts on how all of this really could be implemented for the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 then?
Yeah, I'm sure implementation would be the key on all the factors. But when we all spoke about inclusivity, there is a tremendous focus on employment generation, be it through creation of special focus areas like toys, many other food processing. All of that was mentioned, creating hubs over here. but again, to focus on the gig workers was something that we have been talking for some time. And when we really look at certain sectors where there will be a lot of opening up of jobs, new sectors, etc., we would also need to see how we can provide social security to them, because that welfare is going to be critical. And I think to provide that type of focus on it does not only bring in a feel good, but also brings in a lot of sense of security, a lot of sense of their their capacity for us to be socially responsible towards them. I think that's a very strong signal. And I think there has been a strong focus on employment creation in general. The MSME part, where we see the part that we've seen on exports. So I think employment generation and then looking after the people who get employed in terms of even the lowest segments of the employment basket. Those are critical areas, and I see that. That's why I call it inclusive.
Inclusive. Armakundan, do you agree? Everyone's being looked into, a budget for all, but inclusive at large. And of course, employment really key. And I know we spoke about artificial intelligence earlier, but I want to bring that back in. Artificial intelligence also saw a significant mention this budget.
I agree. AI got a significant mention. I got to talk about the high points of the budget. For example, nuclear energy for the first time. Looking at the Civil Liabilities Act in nuclear, so that we go to sustainable future. Also, what she's done is very interesting in the sense that while she's foregone some revenue through the cut in direct taxes, she's actually said she will do public-private partnership in the infrastructure area, which is actually, and then the whole speech, if you look at it, the number of times the word trust was used, trust-based and trust-first. I think this is a budget where citizens are forming a partnership, are seen as a partner in progress, and corporate is seen as a partner in progress, and government providing the framework. What we need to really work hard is to make sure what we have as an intent at the center translates itself into what we can do at the states, at the city level, as it's been highlighted. So we need to sort of ensure that it filters down. But the budget has hit all the right spots, and I think this is the kind of budget we were hoping for in this moment, especially when a large section of the country, large set of population was a bit hurting from inflation. I think it's addressed one big concern, and I think this is a budget for looking ahead, looking forward, and looking towards Viksit Bharat.
A budget looking towards Viksit Bharat. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts and, of course, decoding the budget highlights for us.